universe.
The deal with Pluck is it's about taking risks. It's about doing something crazy. It's about adventure. That's kind of like the vibe.
This is my brother. He's an Iron brother too. He's
Yeah.
Lister and did some MMA trading.
An
Got
Iron
his ass
Rebel.
kicked.
An Iron
Yeah.
Rebel. So I came dressed appropriately for meeting John.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I actually did a lunch workout today, and that's
Yeah.
never my favorite one because you're so limited in time with my 8 to 5 gig between driving there, changing. When I get the energy, I just go ahead and do it, even if it's a 30-minute BS little chest workout. It's better than nothing. And
Yep.
so yeah, ready to rock.
Yeah. If there's something you're like, hey, I said that and I don't really want it out there. I can edit anything out and on there,
Right.
whatever. So just
I'm long past the stage in life where there's any editing.
you're beyond editing.
Man, you go through and not like once you sit on stage in a Speedo, which is kind of everyone's greatest like nightmare, right?
Right.
Yeah, truly.
Like literally, pretty much any false confidence you had or what, like it's gone. It's gone.
That's hilarious. So yeah, so thanks for joining us, man. We got Quadzilla here with us.
Why don't you give a little introduction, Hunter, and then David can kind of give his background.
Yeah, okay. So this is Pluck, and we have a little intro thing that I'll plug in beforehand. But this is part of our trying how to stay sane series. So we talked about riding Harleys in the Keys, building a cabin in the woods, raising sheep, different people, different life, different place in life, but they all did something. And everybody has had a challenge in life, faced it or not faced it. But David Johnston from Team Warrior Within, we'll have the link posted on the video and in the comment section, is my on and off trainer. I don't want to say former. I feel like we're probably gonna, I've started up a couple of times. We trained together for years, and he's trained me. He's been my coach. He's a former competitive bodybuilder, and elite training athlete, and done podcasting. He's got a lot of hats he's worn, and it's super great to have him here today with us. So,
Thank you guys for having me.
yeah. So,
David, how'd you get started in the biz, in weightlifting rather?
I'll give this short and sweet, and then if you want me to expand, because there's a story I've told a bunch of times, I can go into all levels of detail. But the short and sweet is I grew up in the 80s, the era of muscle masculine men. So He-Man, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, you name it. Pro America, rah, rah, rah. And I was kind of born a fat kid, if you will, maybe. I don't know if that's technically a word that we don't use anymore. But either way, I was 10 pounds of birth. My brother was 9'11". My mom's sisters were all morbidly obese for life. And, it kind of sucked. And it just made it hard to do like stuff that normal kids do, like climb the gym rope, gym class, do a pull-up, all that stuff. So like, even though I was fairly active and all that, it just wasn't my forte. So I kind of always had this vision that someday I would like figure that out and get in shape. But at the age of 9, I came from a musical family, not an athletic family whatsoever. Like my dad was actually kind of anti-sports.
oh,
My parents are legit old hippies that ran away from town when they were 18, 16 and lived on an Indian reservation up in
oh, wow. Legit.
So, like real.
Yeah.
And so I grew up very musical and artistic, not with a whole lot of athleticism. We'll get back to that at some point, but I stumbled upon playing the drums, oh, and just kind of took off with rocket fuel. It was my passion, obsession, all of that stuff. And that kind of fueled me, so much so that like I had no plan B, like barely got through high school, no intentions to go to college, never took an SAT, none of that stuff. Like I'm all in. I'm an all in guy. But around 18, I was working in factories, and the guys in my band all went off to college. I realized they had a plan B. And my father drove a garbage truck for 40 years. And I was doing manual labor at 18. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to drive a garbage truck for the next 40 years. Maybe I should go back to college. So did that. Tried a couple times working out. When I was like 15, got a membership for the YMCA, went real hard for 3 months. Didn't really know what I was doing. So I didn't see any progress. Quit. I got in college. There was like a intramural gym. Went real hard for 3-4 months. Everything I do with a high degree of intensity. So
Yeah.
but we got no progress because I was on a college diet, mac and cheese and hot dogs. And then ended up pursuing philosophy in college because it was interesting to me. And, not because it would be a gateway to a career. Right. And,
Expanding your mind, man, kind of.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of it was like, I didn't really have a lot of guidance growing up. So
Right.
I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Find your path. Definitely.
Trying to find my own guidance.
Yeah.
So who better to turn to than the greatest thinkers in the history of mankind, right?
Yeah.
So, with the intention of pursuing a PhD and being a college professor, final year of college, all the grades were there, everything was there. Just kind of started to see like, I'm not going to take this life and I'm not going to last. Like the bureaucracy of academia,
Yeah.
saying all that stuff, right? So I finished my bachelor's, and after 4 years of intense, I would still like be academics during the school year and then work manual labor grunt jobs because that was kind of like my blood. And was so burnt on academia because I did it kind of as hard as I did drumming. I tried to devour all of the history of philosophy in 4 years.
Thousands of years.
That'll mess with your head. That'll mess with your head sometimes.
In some ways strategic because like I wasn't out that I had like a meaningless degree that everyone gets when they don't know what to do with their life. And my plan was to teach, and like, you're going to do that, you better be top of your field, right?
Right. That's right, man. Yeah.
So the hustle was always there, but I know I wouldn't survive. So finished college. The girl I was dating, long term for 5 years, had a year left. And then she was gone to grad school. So I kind of hitched my wagon to that trailer and went to a temp agency after a content job. I said, what's the hardest job you have with the most hours? They said, furniture mover. I said,
been there, done that, man.
Yeah. So I started doing that. Once after I graduated, doing some of the college pounds and naturally building a little muscle. And I said, all right, we tried this a couple times before because getting shape specifically, but you just kind of like threw crap at the wall to see what would stick, blind fury with no reason. And I kind of started to know myself better and more self-awareness.
Yeah. How old were you at this point?
When I finished college, 22 or
So you're 22 and you're hauling furniture up and downstairs in Chicago, and you think, all right, this is it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to really.
Yeah. I saw the makings. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, just ultimate fitness, or I'm going to be a bodybuilder, or what was your dream at that point as you're hauling couches downstairs?
I never had plans to compete in bodybuilding.
Okay. So you just wanted to be in shape and not fat anymore.
So literally my goal, and I've told this to countless clients, was to be less fat, more muscular. It was super open-ended.
Was Patrick Swayze's role in Roadhouse an inspiration? Because he had a philosophy major, if you know what that is.
I was never a Swayze guy, man. Believe it or not.
Dalton had a philosophy degree.
I love, I love Dirty Dancing. Don't get me wrong. Who doesn't? And Roadhouse, like I'll watch it for sure. But he was too
Yeah.
pretty for me, he was too
Yeah.
sexy for me, and I'm just not that guy. Like,
He tread the line pretty carefully. So my thing with working out intensely is always the motivation. What one individual why they decided to do it. Whether it's I want to look badass, or it's I feel weak, or it's just, people that work out and your buddies are in the gym, so you work out with your buddies, or whatever. It's always different for everybody. For me, I'm not a big intense workout, but I've always worked out with weights. Not that you could tell, but forever, for 20 something years, always. And honestly, I think for me, I don't like not looking a little jacked. And maybe it's vanity. I think it is. And I think it's a little bit like I like looking tough. But for me, it's like without the jacked look, which I try to get once in a while, I feel less than. And it's different for
Right.
everybody. So I wanted to ask you two, Hunter first and then David. Hunter, you've had different types of philosophies of working out, from core to just cardio, where you're running with that big iron plate and your bulletproof vest, to getting
Right.
ripped. So what do you think drives you to do? Why even bother? Why not have a dad bod and just chill out? Honest question.
It's been different things at different times. Initially, the very first time I started lifting weights and doing intense exercise was because my back hurt. I was in my 30s. I was fat and I'd lost some weight and my back started feeling better. I thought, well, maybe if I work out, I'll feel better. So I just started lifting to feel better, and it worked. My back miraculously. I mean, I had been on cane. I used a cane 3 times a year. I was on hydrocodone at times. I had severe congenital lower back pain and sports related injuries. So I was like, I want to feel better. So that was the first thing. And then, after I'd done it a while, I thought, you know what? I wonder how far I can take this. So it went from feeling better, like a health thing, to I kind of got obsessed with it. I thought, I loved it. I love the feeling. I kind of got hooked on the adrenaline. And I thought, I also started looking a little better. I thought, I wonder how far I can take this. And that's when I started looking around, I thought, all right, I'm going to have to, I had tried things. I'd taken as far as I could go, I thought, after a couple of years of just trying a bunch of stuff. And then I thought, I want to find the best trainer I can to take me as far as I can go. And because there was trainers at my gym, there was guys and they were like walking 80-year-old ladies around and, like, all right, you can do it. And I was like, this is not the guy for me. They were nice and all, but I was like, I want someone with intensity, someone that's taking it to the highest level. And then I saw Team Warrior Within. I saw David Johnston on there with, in his competition picks. I thought, that's the guy.
So we'll get to how you found David. But David, are you able to distill in a few words what got you to hardcore working out?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It was definitely 100% vanity, if you want to call it that. I just wanted to look better and kind of figured like health markers would naturally get better with that. But yeah, even before I started, I was always big. Like I was never in my life not a big guy. So I was usually the strongest kid in school. Like I was in marching band, I was stronger than the football team. Right. So like with that, I liked being strong. Like you have something of a good thing, you want more of a good thing usually. But I didn't set out with intention of that. So it was definitely vanity. Just
I want to latch on.
Get a body to match where I kind of take my brain to and just be a more pleated person, if you will.
I like that phrase, the body to match where my brain is.
I like that too. I think vanity can mean so many different things. And I think
it's a loaded term and it could mean different things.
Right. I think when you want to feel good about yourself and you want to have, self-esteem or, a positive self-image, that kind of thing, part of that is appearance. That's why we take baths, why we get haircuts,
Right.
why we put on clothes and not just, wear a bag when we walk around, So I think, I think, yeah. So I think matching who you are internally is a really cool concept. And I think,
Sure.
there are risks to this. I mean, you can get lost in the world of lifting, and you can, it can become all consuming and really mess you up. We've probably all known and seen that. 100% or been there.
The interesting thing, so I spent the rest of that, moving furniture, just reading and educating myself, and then relocating. When I started, my goals were super open-ended because I didn't know what was possible, right? Like, how do you set a goal if you have no metric to start with?
Mhm.
But I left myself an out. And the out was, all right, I'm going to be perfect with diet, training for 6 months. And after 6 months, if I don't feel like this one is there, allow myself to be fine and like not feel bad about it. Like it is what it is. I truly tried. I started training like, I don't know, 2, 3, 5 sessions in. Like I didn't have to do it. It was like, it's something I love. I love doing this.
So how did you know your way around the gym? Did you have a trainer or did you just grow up with it?
No, I actually started in my basement for the first year and a half. Just bought a weight set. I'd already tried the gym thing a couple times, and I knew that like there's more self-consciousness, or at least everyone feels like there's all the stuff, right? And I didn't really dig it. I didn't want to be comparing myself to other people, just comparing myself to myself. So got a weight set during the basement, and that year I spent kind of educating myself. I was watching a lot of tape, videos of bodybuilders. Like I decided to turn to bodybuilders because like who knows better how to get muscular and lean than bodybuilders, right? They're literally professionals at it.
Yeah.
And I just read, there's a magazine back in the day, Muscular Development, right?
Yeah.
It was 400 pages cover to cover. Half of that's advertisements, but so a lot of it was like,
The big Joe Weider protein ads and all that.
yeah. So they would have a whole section in there that was just abstracts of cutting edge research on fat loss, performance enhancing drugs, training technique, et cetera. So I just tried to get kind of a global perspective, but also like really turn to the professionals. And my background in philosophy and logic, I think helped me a lot because I looked for what they all said that was in common instead of like getting caught up in the variance from one person to the next.
Can I ask you this back to philosophy? Was there one philosopher that seemed to jive with the way you thought about life and approach? Was there one name you throw out there, be like, that guy is what I think about life and humanity? Or is it just a hodgepodge?
This is where I get some chuckles from anyone in the know. I started with Ayn Rand when I was niche, right? And then that kind of changed some of her influences, primarily Aristotle, some Nietzsche. And then over the years, felt more appreciation for bizarro dudes like Heraclitus from ancient Greece or the modern creation, which is Hegel. And kind of ran the spectrum over because you eventually come to see where each of them is coming from in response to the previous person. But yeah, it was definitely a more hard logic, objective fact,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
All I remember from college philosophy is thought experiments that he had us do.
Right. Which is
How'd you
essentially,
find, how'd you get hooked up with David, Hunter?
Yeah. So so I, as I reached my pinnacle of personal achievement in terms of fitness, I wanted to take the next level, and I was definitely stronger, definitely leaner. I'd gone from 235, 100% body fat, I like to say, and got down to like 207. probably 25% body fat. And I was stuck. So I'm trying different things. I tended to, unlike David, I tended to like get caught up in somebody's, I'd follow one person like, oh, okay, this guy said, you know, one is, I think one that made David laugh was the carb loading guy who said, yeah, just eat clean all day. And then at night after you work out, just eat whatever you want. Doesn't matter, and he had
carb backloading. That's what that guy is.
Right. Yeah. So, and I guess there's a grain of truth to all these things, but his version of it didn't work for me. And, it obviously was flawed. So anyway, so I was like, and this is crazy. So I talked to some trainers at the gym, and they were just kind of like guys that have been doing it for 30 years and they were not super inspired. They had never competed, they just kind of, this was, their job.
It's a day job.
Regular gym guy. Yeah. So I started looking around online and I thought, well, I was in Mandeville, Louisiana, and there was no one. I looked around, there was no one doing like high level training, coaching. And I didn't want to drive to New Orleans. And so I just thought, wow, I'll just look online. And I found David's site, and he had different coaches, but I thought, well, I'll just go with the top guy. And like I said, his pictures were amazing. And yeah, it was great. I mean, I got my goal. I got to my highest level of fitness ever. And I'll show you some pics and stuff, but I got, I never had abs ever. I had a mono ab, I guess, my whole life. I, for some reason, could never. And I was like, man, I want abs, and I got them. It was super exciting, and it's really changed. I mean, I'm a different person now. I had egg whites for breakfast. I track all my food in my phone. I know exactly my macro split. I got it this morning and went and worked out for an hour, weight trained for an hour. So I'm all in. And it's just gotten me a level of fitness that I'd really hoped for. I mean, I still kind of like, I wonder if I could, take it to the next level and look at, like heads and that kind of thing. But I just don't have the guts, or I'm too old probably for that. But anyway, I'm pretty happy where I am. But yeah, I mean, I wanted someone that was going to really challenge me and be knowledgeable. And, so what we did, we met online and we did mainly email. He questionnared me and then came up with a plan, and we did weekly check-ins, and I would mail him pictures of myself posing in my underwear in the mirror. So that's some accountability I'd never had. I was the first time I sent it to him, I was like, I just really don't know if this is a good idea to send email pictures of yourself out until you see it, the World Wide Web. Just one funny story is one time I sent my update to the wrong David. And so I'm a psychologist, and the president of Louisiana Academy of Medical Psychologists is named David. And I sent him my update, but by God's grace, I had not attached the picture. So he got my verbal description, and he's like, I'm sure this is not for me or whatever. And I was just thankful my pose and pic were not included. But it was terrifying. After I clicked send, I was like, oh my gosh, wrong David.
David, are the sessions these days mostly by email, or do you do video with people? How does it work for your typical customer?
So I did all in-person training for about 13 years. And I had the weird problem of always being way too booked. It got just worse and worse. And I'm not a business guy, so I kept trying to reinvent ways to take some of my pressure off. And the more I did, the more things just got crazy. So at some point, probably 2012, I started doing some online coaching just on the side. And the motivation was just someone would see me get in shape for a show and be like, I need to hire you to get me in shape. And I'm like, yeah, I charge $100 an action. You don't need me to train you. You know how to train. You need me to do your diet. You need me to do your cardio and supplement. You need me to coach you. And in bodybuilding, that's how pros work. They have a coach. They send their pictures and stats off, get feedback, make adjustments, etc. So I just started doing that organically more and more. And by 15, Team Warrior then was at its biggest, 21 coaches under me. And by mid 16, I was just starting to kind of go off the rails with my own mental health in certain ways. So I took a 6-month hiatus I'm just going to work from home deal. By that point, I had a good amount of online. And I just did online, and then those kept just like rolling in faster. So I just built that. So historically, it was all just email. Over the years, I've continued to modify and tweak that as I've seen problems spring up, and just trying to get better at solving those problems. So I still do mostly email in terms of check-in. Like every client sends a weekly check-in with stats and feedback and pictures. But when I initially consult, now this is like a FaceTime call, in part because like email personal.
Yeah.
And it's also a really good way for people to duck any somebody versus if you surprise call somebody on FaceTime.
Yeah.
And they realize like, oh, there's
eating some donuts.
Fun. So start with that. And then, I do other things where they still check in or email, but I kind of figured out with online coaching in the beginning, I'd have people send over their training logs. Like I benched 100 pounds for 12 reps.
Yeah.
And I would go through meticulously and adjust each set, like do this for this many reps, line by line. Well, the problem is you can't see their form and execution, right? So it's kind of like doing a scale weight without a body composition picture to match the abstract data without. So, last couple of years, I've had clients, just grab a video of a single set of a movement or whatever it might be. Depends on, most people are really loath, I understand, because everyone feels kind of like a jackass filming themselves in the gym. So people under the age of 25.
Yeah.
But with anyone in our elderly population, it's not their favorite thing to do. But again, it's like, I don't want to see every video. I don't want to see every set. I'll see like one video of your squat. And then I'm basically looking for markers of biomechanics, like how to fix the type execution, and markers of intensity. Because like you can have perfect form, and if your intensity is a 3, I can cut it.
First of all, dieting was the main thing for me. Getting on track with my diet and really, making some changes that would stick, because I would just fall off the wagon so much. But the very close number 2 was the video check-ins, because I would send them my squat videos. He's like, oh, that is not right at all. You are completely off. And then I would fix it. He's like, yes, that's it. And it was amazing. It really helped a lot. And it was a little self-conscious filming myself, but it's all right.
And it's now that like everybody's an online coach now.
Yeah.
It's super prolific.
Yeah.
And if you don't just see that raw number data and you don't ever actually get like demonstration, it's really, I figured out like I can pull this out of diet, do that, and like you're not changing. Why aren't you changing? Yeah. Oh, you don't know how to train. Yeah.
Right.
That's like a much hard, that's a skill set. Like it's much harder. You can't go over something once and like, hey, I got it. I'm a great squatter. Like it's repetition, repetition, repetition. And then you keep getting better at it.
So just personally, as you were training for your competition, were there times when you thought, this is crazy. I don't want to do this anymore. Did you ever have moments like that, or were you?
There were times when I knew it was crazy and like still wanted to do it and just had to get through it,
So you never struggle with motivation as much with your own training?
Not so much until like the last year that I prepped. I mean, I did have like a depressive crash after I competed in 2012 and basically realized I couldn't balance family, business, and bodybuilding. Like, passion, family, and career.
I had no idea how you got to that level you did. with all that
Well,
going on?
and so we're on vacation in Punta Cana for a week, and I said, and basically was like, all right, well, something's got to happen. Let's shut this down. Plus, coming off anabolic steroids, which is a great way to induce depression. So there were in that where I intentionally lost motivation. That makes sense because I thought it was the better judgment call. But you still pine for it because it's your passion. It's like what you live for. But at the same time, it was more important than I'd be a good father than I'd be a great bodybuilder. So
What years did you compete?
I did my first show in 07, 2 shows in 08, and those 3 were natural shows. I competed naturally the first 2 times. And 2 in 2010, my first year using women drugs. 12, 3 times in 14. And my last season was 16. I planned 7 shows, and I knew it was going to be my final season. And I got through 1 and shut it down prematurely. So
the shutting down was just a combination of responsibilities and family and business all crashing together.
a lot of it was that, but it wasn't entirely that. I started to be able to tell that, number one, it had gone far enough. I was 36, using more performance enhancing drugs than I was comfortable with, which, like, if you're in the sport, that's usually naturally going to progress a lot of, just like your weights and your food. It's no different. And the weights I was moving by that point, I knew like I was going to have a catastrophic injury at some point.
Yeah.
I just had feeling in my blood, so it seemed like a good time to ride off from the sunset. But then the other thing too is that I never had any internal health issues like liver, kidney, but musculoskeletal issues kept getting weirder, and like I never took time off to go to doctors or like if a muscle didn't tear off the bone, I didn't go to the doctor.
Hardcore, man.
Wow. What do you think of?
I was working 90-hour weeks, and like my wife wasn't working, so like,
oh my gosh,
it's sink or swim, man.
Yeah.
What's your feeling about implants, like ab implants, calf implants, in the sense of drugs and steroids could be cheating, except everyone's doing that too. If people all start doing implants, is that fair competition if everyone has access to it? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Without getting overly philosophical, like I don't believe in fair competition, period. But because like everyone's born with genetics that are different and yada yada. But I do think there's an important distinction. Like you can take a simpler distinction in bodybuilding. People use steroids, but they also use like oil fillers to directly inject into a muscle to volumize it. And like most fans of bodybuilding, except steroids, don't accept the oil fillers. When you use steroids, they facilitate muscle building. They don't make you huge. You still have to eat right. You still have to train. Science shows like, you'll build a little bit of lean mass and take steroids and don't change anything else, but it'll be a very little amount of lean mass. So you still have to do the work. And people that end up going that route, at least for me, and like when I've had to advise or been asked an opinion, I don't think there's an absolutely right and wrong way to do it, but I think there's better and worse ways to do it. Like I didn't start till I was 30. I had my one kid and we knew we were done. You know what I mean? Like, I had 5 years of solid training under my belt. So if you don't know how to train already, and you start using steroids, you'll never learn how to train because anything will work. Any stimulus will work. So if you haven't built an appreciable amount of muscle without steroids, you're kind of right.
So you didn't start competing until 30?
No, well, I did my first 3 shows natural. Like I trained for 5 years before I did my first show. And then I did 3 shows over the next 2 years. And that's 6 years in.
Yeah, late in the game. I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, I didn't start after college, so.
Talking about that example, that steroids are only, the catalyst in a sense. Like Jose Canseco famously was busted for roids in baseball, but he always made the point that my brother, he has a twin brother, looks exactly like, and They both did the same workouts, same regimen, same roids, and they both kind of played baseball, but talent is everything and genetics is everything. And my brother pros and I did same workout, same everything. That's
You know, it depends on one's level of naivety or like faith in the system, if you will. The longer I've been involved, the more I believe every professional athlete is using some type of performance enhancing drug. It's a multi-billion-dollar, like you get it. It's money driven and people want to see rock stars. They can complain about it, but that's what they want to see. Super. Actually, that's why they come back to buy tickets. So, but even with something like baseball, it'll help your recovery, right?
yeah.
But like hitting a baseball is a skill. It's like a stick, you can see faster. It's not going to make you like, well, better. It'll make it maybe fly further when you do connect. But Barry Bonds would have been the best hitter of all time. You know, it might have been like 20 home runs left.
I
So,
mean, Mark McGuire would have gotten more distance with the muscles and more this, that, but the seeing, the eye coordination,
right.
it's there from
Like,
the get-go. You just didn't have the guns to send it that far, maybe, but yeah.
well, and the other thing too is like, you got to remember those guys live on the road, eat road food. We helping with that. Not possible. So, like, I'm false about my heart.
I
I'm
think
not gonna.
it's funny, like, I'm not funny, but it's a position for actors like The Rock then to obviously be roided up to the gill, not talk about it. Not really asked about it. I think people tread carefully on that. The inspiration to kids. He's kind of a family movie guy. Have to basically not mention it. And it's a
Well,
weird thing to tread.
yeah,
Do you have any thoughts on that?
yeah, it's always a double edged sword of it. You know, like at the podcast place co-host, we were one of those first podcasts that talked about it openly. Same
Yeah.
time, like use amongst young people has absolutely exploded, and it's an open dialogue nowadays. But like, how much of that's from us opening the door? How much is just social media? We were at the right place at the right time, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, I think kind of thing, and even Arnold. I grew up, but still illegal until I think 91. And then Bush one ran a platform said we can't take the youth by teaching them the cheating wins, and it became a scheduled drug, even though it's a pharmaceutically prescribed compound, medical conditions.
Well, like 10 years ago in major bodybuilding, was it illegal? For example?
No. So the main bodybuilding federation is the International Federation of Bodybuilding, which I
Right.
steroids are not illegal in most countries.
So,
Tell me
like,
when-
not to interrupt you, but like Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler in their heyday, was it open? You can use it, or was they have to pass? They have to sneak it in.
I like drug testing them at that level one time in, I don't know what year, but late 80s, early 90s. And everyone looking like trash. And so they did away with it. And
Yeah.
since
So
then,
there's tested and non-tested competitions.
Okay.
there are natural federations that you can compete in, but the IFBB is the NFL.
What is the one that Coleman and Cutler, was it the Mr. The high? Was that the biggest one?
The Olympia is the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. Yeah. So,
They don't test.
oh, they definitely do not test.
Yeah.
Like,
And so
literally,
there's,
this is have a hard brains around bodybuilding, like ruffles and feathers here. Absolutely not a sport. It's a pageant. There's nothing that's measured. There's no accumulation of points. They don't give you points and take away points. They line up guys and go and like you line up, you'd be like, hey, you're taller than me. So that's how bodybuilding shows judge. So you can have implants galore as long as it looks like natural muscle, you'll be fine.
Yeah, they don't test.
They judge you on how you look.
It's
So if
not.
you look.
it's starting to
competition
sound
where-
like a. Go ahead.
Well, strongman is, I think it's popular too now because people, I think part of the appeal is its actual strength and it's pure muscle in a usable sense in an impressive way versus the model and the appearance pageantry.
but even then, like you cross lines, like functional muscle, if you ever have to throw a keg over a 30, which you'll do in your life.
I've done that.
And,
No, I'm kidding.
and the other myth there is that like bodybuilders aren't strong. It's like, well, we don't train for limit strength, but like most of the top bodybuilders in the world, if they decided to pivot into powerlifting, would destroy most powerlifting records. And when powerlifters try to set new strength records, what they focus on is hypertrophy, getting muscles bigger. Because most of your strength comes from your nervous system and lever length, right? And you can't keep training your nervous system. So once you've kind of maxed out technique, it's about the levers. So out of opinions in all ways, and they're all uninformed. Just because their opinions based on not understanding the body or the sports that they're discussing.
Is there a skeleton form that's ideal for bodybuilding with that? Is there if you had a laboratory, what's the form that would best work for a body frame?
Ideal proportion. Structure is going to determine your upper limit, right? So if you were born with the wrong bone structure, kind of like supermodel, you can do it, but you never. General rules: wide clavicle, narrow waist. It's legs rather than short, because if you're through the torso, you usually means you have a lot of midsection. And with that, as you get bigger, your midsection is going to get bigger. So your taper is going to look worse, so on and so forth. Longer limbs, shorter. So everything looks, because the longer a limb is, the muscle just attaches a joint to a joint, right? So the longer a limb is, the more volume you can pack onto that limb.
Well,
Hunter, you're screwed.
Ask
Hunter,
about your
get your dreams. Get that tanning stuff out of your closet.
I got the Norwegian square frame. So
Hunter and I both have these massive waists. I do, and I think he does too. If I put on a little fat, I have a 42-inch waist, and I'm a relatively thin guy.
Hey,
not awful wide hips.
To be clear, I'm Scottish. So I was on that. My brother was 6'7", 360 pounds. And at 14, he was 6'4", 300 pounds.
Jeez.
And I'm 6'1", but you call me Quadzilla, et cetera. I naturally have huge thighs, Scottish legs, like to carry bales of hay across the legs.
You probably would look good in a kilt, man, with those legs. Well, I'm kind of curious about your work with all these clients, probably hundreds or more over the years. Have you, and we've been talking about like the mental health side of lifting and stuff. And like, obviously it helps to exercise. We know a ton of literature says it's great for mental health, great for physical health. And certainly looking better, I think, is good for self-concept. Do you see themes like generally when someone comes to you out of shape and weak and they want to get more mass and less fat, do you see like them kind of blossom mentally or crash, or is it a roll the dice?
No, it's always blossom, at least the first couple of years. And then if they start competing, the longer you compete, come down the backside of the slope. So
can you compete and not go down the bad side?
I mean, some people do. A lot of people do, but statistically, I don't see it that often.
I had a question. A lot of people that go to your website to contact you, you probably heard that from people because you're a big dude, and they're embarrassed and they're weird about it. So, what would you tell somebody who's clicking around on how the first conversation with you goes, or what's the first lesson, just to give them a little ease of mind?
Sure.
Yeah, it's therapy.
Get your head fixed first. And no, honestly, like the longer I was a trainer, once I became a trainer, they focused on sales. I'd never done anything with the public where I had to do it before. So sales was all schmoozing and saying yes. Oh yeah, we can. So I like tried that at my first training like gig, hated it. So I quit and went back to my internship. And when I got back into it, I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it my way. So my consultations with science, like how the body works. And if that doesn't tell you, like I have nothing for you. Right. Like I'm not here to tell you your motivation. You got to figure out that on your own. But if you have goals, I can tell you how it's done.
Yeah, and I think that
years,
that's an unintimidating approach. You know, when I contacted David, I didn't feel like he seemed very kind of open-minded about where things would go. Like, if you want to work with me, I'd love to. If you don't, I'm gonna wish you well. It really was. And I think, yeah, kind of, I think I got the impression you just focus on being the best at what you do and trusting that the results would come with that. And that's,
I tried to. And some of it, like working at a gym, they get trainers to sell a package, sign you up for 6 months.
right.
And the sales pitch is like, well, ability, so we're going to want to credit card slips, and that way you're accountable. And the truth is, like, if somebody doesn't want to do this, there's nothing I say that's going to make them want to do it. I mean, what do you think? Like, I'm not going to tell you what you should want. You're a grown ass adult. You know, I'm not your dad. I have too much respect for, I think it's manipulative and shark. So I always refuse to do packages. I always did 100% my clients in person. Jim hated me for it. Clients love me for it. And still to this day, but the other part of the reason, like to be blunt, is because, yeah, I'm providing a service, but like you have to be able to communicate, not hide from me, and kind of be upfront.
Gotta be trust. Yeah, right. For results.
And as I got busier, I was able to be more selective and more audacious, like attitude.
Yeah.
Part of it was just realizing like, hey man, we might not be a good fit. I might not like you. And if I don't like you, I don't really want to coach you. I don't care what you think. Like I ran a month. If I hate waking up in the morning, it's not worth it. Like, full job. So with online different because rapport is different, right? Like it's everything that comes from an in-person session, right? Body level. So you have to, I wouldn't say sugar. You have to like change your rhetoric a little bit. You know, just like any email, everything ends with an exclamation mark or an emoji or whatever. Ideas that aren't actual ideas. So kind of the same thing. During that onboarding, that first call, to just make somebody really aware, if you will, that like, and nothing that you like, I know your problems are unique, but I've changed from severe mental health disorders, every medical condition under the sun almost. And like, I have some fixes for you that might help.
Yeah.
Right. And nothing you say is going to shock me, and I'm not going to moralize because my back, it's not my thing. Oh,
Right. Yeah. I mean, motivate someone to go to the wife is in good shape, out per se, but I just enjoy it. And I feel so.
Yeah.
And she's got a lot of free time, and there's a gym you could walking distance from here. Mention it and push it there. And when people are gonna work out, they really want to, they'll find their way to it. Maybe they don't keep, but you can't force it. We all know the guys. Separate conversation. They get their first training session, and it's 4 a.m. and they're jacked. And they feel great, and they tweet out, "This is my new life. I'm starting a.m." 3 days later, complete burned out. You know, it's like you can't if you tackle it that hardcore from the get go, you can't keep that up forever. You're gonna, and then you get depressed, and you feel like,
well, I think you can make the analogy there to mental health as well. You can't force somebody to enter,
right.
right? Coming in until they're ready to come in.
or
Sure. And it's going to be when they hit rock bottom, but like everyone's rock bottom is different. The minute you walk in, that's your rock bottom. It leads to the lowest you've been. And like there might be more levels to bottom that you haven't discovered yet. It's going to make any progression until you walk in because you want to make your life better.
I have a question about, so I have a question about music. Do you listen to music when you lift? Is that part of your training?
Oh, dude, I got to a point where I realized, I think I only train because it gives every day to just put on headphones and like listen all my life. For any given contest prep, I can tell you like which albums were played on rotation for which exercises, cardio sessions. And to this day, when I put them on, like I get the goosebumps and
all. Isn't that amazing?
Style of music? What style of music do you gravitate to?
Working out.
Born and bred on classic rock, so that was my jump off point. Then I hair rock, and then I segued to metal in my adolescence. So I was I identified as a metalhead, but because I'm a music snob, I like progressive metal, right? Like super unpopular. But then
like European melodic,
not so much that. That's more like symphonic, power metal they call. Just stuff that's in a lot of different time signatures. So stuff that has more like jazz overtone. So time signatures that go over the bar or recurring themes throughout the album, stuff like that.
Okay.
Just more complex, like metal with complexity.
I got you.
Yeah, but when I trained, like I usually wouldn't listen to that. Like I know Sean's last moose, but new metal works great to train to, like Limp Bizkit and stuff like that. Corn, in part because it's not pummeling. You can't keep your adrenaline at the whole session. It needs to be dynamics to the music, or you're going to burn out 5 minutes into the workout. Either that, or some type of hard.
Same for me.
DMX. Well, that's pretty universal, I found. Like most serious lifters, if you ask them enough, eventually they'll come to those two.
Yeah. I think Spotify's pretty confused by my metal rap mix. And then occasional Christian.
Well, and believe it or not, like last year when I was training again, I was putting on more like gospel-y stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to get to a point in your evolution where you can generate intensity without feeling angry.
Right.
So like I know power lifters that literally this guy used to know, like before he set a deadlift record, he's like, I just thought of my mom lying in her casket at her funeral and I started crying in tear. And the memory of like, I'm doing this for you, Mom, was what he needed to do that record. Right. So like anything that allows you to tap into visceral emotion will help to generate intensity.
I always need to get angry when I'm putting on a lot of weight on the bar. And I'll even, it's bad, but I'll even like mutter curse words. And I think people around me can hear me because I have my headphones on. I probably sound like a maniac. I'm like, but it just gets that bar off the rack. And then I'm okay. But I need that. It's like almost like I resent what I'm doing, but it gets me going. And then
so John rides up on his Harley, his massive Harley, and he's padded up, and he goes in the gym and he's cursing. And people are like, "Can we put him on a watch list or something?"
Dude, I always have a scowl on my face. I don't talk to anybody because my thing has always been, if you talk to one guy, you go to the gym the same time every day, you're going to see that guy every day and talk to him for 20 years. So I just walk around like an asshole.
Oh, it's 10 times worse if you're a trainer there. Because like everyone you're there to answer questions. I'm like, this is my 1 hour. And like, I got my angry face. So like and even when I trained my ex-wife, we trained together for years and we had a rule, like headphones in, we don't talk.
Oh, wow.
We communicate with hand signals if we need to. Like, cause then you're going to start talking about what's for dinner and what your daughter needs to do this weekend and yada, yada. And like, you can't sustain focus and energy.
I never thought about your training at your job, basically. You're at work, basically, but you go into training with it. So,
well, I got a few minutes left to go, bro. If you want to,
Okay.
any last
Yeah.
questions? I got to roll in a little bit.
All right. So where do you have you've obviously accomplished a lot. You've had an ongoing, very successful coaching business. You competed at a high level with bodybuilding. You've done some band work, which we didn't talk a whole lot about, but you've had some involvement in bands over the years. And
That's cool.
do you have some things you'd like to see happen in the future or be in a place where just for you personally, do you have a challenge for yourself or I don't know?
I wish I had a motivational response, but I've been dealing with neurological issues here that have been progressive and look like they're going to continue progressing for the worse. So my goal is to slow the worsening as much as I can. With that, like most business considerations, you kind of like continue to deliver for my clients the highest level that I can.
Yeah.
And that for me, that's just breathing. When I feel I can't do that, I won't coach. You know? And then just be the best father that I can be. My daughter changed 14 this summer. You know, that's really been, that's really why I like segued away from bodybuilding and in-person training. Except for the full role of fatherhood of blowing up your, let somebody else's flourish and blossom. As cynical as that might sound, but not intended to. And then I got the personal goal because of the neural one for job. I haven't been able to do much of this last year, but I've been on occasion and tattooing since I was really young, which like this culture, it's a hair rock. So I started getting tattoos at 15, kind of put them on hold, you know, got that moderately heavy till about 22. Put on hold for more or less for the 15 years that I was bodybuilding. And as soon as I was done, I was like, all right, bro, let's roll. So unfortunately, my artist lives down in Maryland. So for me, it's 7 hours whenever we do it, but I coach him for free and he inks me for free. So great.
It's a great
It's
game.
worth it.
What's your favorite tat? Yeah.
I kind of don't have one because mine all tells a contiguous story. Like they've been getting better lately because I've given him more freedom to just do what you're good at. Like I have the idea now, have a blast, and he doesn't disappoint. Most recently, so I'm sleeved up to the knees. I'm working on a full body suit from here down.
Okay.
So I'm sleeved, foot through top of knee, sleeve from wrist all the way up across chest. The outline, we did all the black work from my back, from top of neck all the way to bottom of like to top of butt. Over this past year, we haven't laid in the color and all that yet. Now I'm starting to do up top of upper thighs. So the most recent was a Genghis Khan portrait on one thigh and a Lao Tzu portrait on the other side.
What's on the other side?
Hunter might have asked you this. Do you have a prevailing theme with your tats or is it just different stuff all over the place?
Me and my beliefs and more specifically the two sides of me, which I think like everybody has greater and lesser degrees.
Definitely.
You're good and you're bad. So Genghis, arguably the greatest warrior of all time and the most ruthless mother effer of all time. And Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, most open, breathy, whatever adjective you want to insert, thinker of all time. So
yeah,
essentially along those lines. And most of them are cryptic, so it would require a lot of philosophy to go into. But
there's this whole duality to being a person. And I think you're tapping into that with what the artwork you getting done there. It's very cool.
Well, I just have a bunch of crappy black jailhouse cats. I don't know what that says about me.
Mostly generic black, you know, but it's got all this like filler. So the closer you get up, there's layers like an onion.
Yeah, mine are pretty
jail tats.
Mine look like pretty basic crap.
A lawyer with jail tats. That's good.
But you're a biker, man. Like you're not supposed to have super polished tattoos either, you know.
I don't. We're not worried about that.
It's not.
It's cool, man. It was awesome meeting you. Hopefully we can do this again,
Man,
because I do want to talk about the band stuff, and that's a big passion of mine right now, more than anything in the world. So
You play the
I got
drums?
projects going on right now.
he's he's the lead guitar.
Oh, okay.
We're both guitarists.
So we'll get into it next time. I've been in the bands forever, like, for all 20 years or so. And I'm in a cover band for the first time, which I always turned my nose up as a true artiste until these guys reached out. And it's 90s heavy grunge, which was my favorite music in that time. Alice in Chains,
Yep.
Nirvana to some extent, Five Finger Death Punch. Like, it's the heavy side of the 90s. And if there's ever a cover band I would do, it'd be that. And now they have 3 hour shows. So we're learning like 60 songs. So I'm just diving into that.
Wow.
It's
That was the
fun.
last band I was in. It's 90s. And we went
Yeah.
up to a couple Pantera songs on the top end and brought it down Temple Pilots on the bottom lower.
I wish we were
Nice.
in the Pantera. They're doing for the crowd pleasing the bar, but it's a heavier side. I love the Alice in Chains stuff. It's been great. I got some new rig. I thought I had this killer rig with an amp and all this pedal boards. None of that worked for the reason we get into next time. So I had to re-gig, all that stuff. Yeah, I love it.
Well, I thank you, David, for being with us, and it was really great. And I hope we can get you back and maybe do a music focused.
For
Whatever
sure.
you want, man. I'd love
And
to. Thanks for having me
philosophy.
out.
We'll put your info.
we-
We'll put.
Sounds
yeah,
good,
everything
guys.
will be here. Great to see you. Wish you
All right,
well.
guys. See y'all next time.
Thank you very much.
Bye, y'all.
Hey, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out our merch at pluckuniverse.com.